Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over 15 teams for the Purple Rain Gems of War event week, with some teams for a couple of the mythics I'll also be showing as well, as far as like the mythic that came in that's still on drop table for most this week, as well as one of them that's in Soulforge. I'll also be showing a couple Guild War teams, mostly just the ones I currently have set, as I do tend to change them from Guild War to Guild War, and they are subject to change by the time we do the streams. However, it's what we currently have set, and people ask from time to time, so we'll go show them during this video. Anyways, let's start all the way from the top at the World event. So the World event is a yellow restriction that is it's a yellow restriction that is specifically Divine and Knights. So any kind of Knights, any kind of Divines. Weapon is also restricted on this, so you have to use weapons that are underneath the yellow category. They could be multicolor, of course, but they have to have yellow included. For this first team, it's a pretty standard Guards Avatar, Cirque, and Hadley team, just with mana accumulation around it to make it work. Unfortunately, as far as Empower, don't really have much in that regard that really works that well. I believe we have like a Cleanse and Convert to Purple, if I'm not mistaken, as far as Empower for it, so not too many options. However, we can use Queen Aurora with the +1 to all link, which is a lot of extra mana, and just use a standard mana accumulating weapon. And since we're getting +1 to everything, we technically don't even need to +1 the weapon, so most of the mana just goes straight into Guard's Avatar. Spam Guard's Avatar, has the armor boost ratio, it's basically just different Rowan, and just end up winning it out with that. Next, we have a cheaper version of the World Lore event that also uses the cheaper weapon. This weapon's from 250 wins on the Dervish Hero class if you don't have it already. Alternatively, you can use Dawnbringer and other similar AoE weapons. In this case, we're using Night Coronet to tank with 50% reduction, and does a little bit of poke while moving a gem you don't need. Paladin is here mostly for its really good boost ratio and poke. It also has a yellow ink, so you can get a little bit more mana. And Pengalong's here just as a good, cheap, easy to obtain. You just go and do the Shantang storyline, and you have yourself a free Pengalong. It's just a solid Kingdom upgrade full AoE troop that you can end up doing. There's a little bit of score reduction too if you have it fully traded, though we're primarily using it, of course, for its ability to pressure damage. And we do have extra spell damage for the World event, so it should be pretty straightforward. Just kind of spam AoE until you win, for the most part. Next up, we have ourselves the Duergaroth faction. This is a brown-purple restricted faction, though of course weapon can be any color you want. On this first one, we once again have a Guards Avatar, Cirque, and Hadley team. Great option when you can't use Rowan, and still good for that as well. Next, we have ourselves a High King Iron Guts Zugoff build, which, since we have access to brown and purple, we can simply just go the pretty standard High King Iron Guts Zugoff, just with Thrall Leprechaun, as mana accumulation kills it out very quickly. For pure faction, we end up going with Deep Golem into 3 of the Legendary. This is how most of the factions can be built, if you're just looking for something to end up building for it, where you go 1 of whatever the tank is, and then 3 of the legends. Some of them go tank, mana accumulator, and double of the legend, depending on how good the mana accumulator is for the given faction. For this one, it's kind of average, so you'll probably get better value just from having enchant on this guy. End up doing a bunch of heavy, true splash damage, so being able to get more hits like that off going to be very helpful. And the tank is just here to make sure you don't die, as 50% score reduction, explode your gem for some board control, even barriers, and gain some life. So really tanky to make sure you just don't lose any troops. And you just kill them out with a bunch of the nears until you kill them with true damage. Next, we have ourselves the Sorcerer class event. This will be taking place on Thursday. The restriction is specifically Karkaroth Daemons, so anything that's underneath the category of Karkaroth Daemons you can end up using. There's a couple things that you can end up doing for this, like triple of the Wall of Thorns with a 15 mana cost or lower weapon. In this case, we're using triple Ancient Horror into a black manacle, particularly with Archmagus. If you need coverage for the actual hero class itself, you can, of course, simply just switch this Archmagus to Sorcerer. However, Archmagus is better than Sorcerer, but there are things like a weekly objective where you need to go and use some amount of pure Karkaroth team. So you can end up doing this. Also, if you just want some extra Sorcerer class XP while doing the Sorcerer class event, if you don't already have it maxed, you can also just simply switch it to Sorcerer instead of Archmagus. However, if you're just doing it for the 25 gems and you already have it maxed, or have all hero classes maxed, just Archmagus, just a little bit quicker, gets a half mana start, gets the +3 purple, and just keep spamming Black Manacle until you win. Next, we have the Task Coverage team. This is primarily for covering 3 things: the weapon, the hero class, and the banner. In which case this covers all 3. We have to use a tome this week for the tasks. And when I refer to tasks, I'm referring to the campaign of tasks course, the weekly campaign tasks. So we have ourselves the tome to cover tome. We have ourselves the Sorcerer hero class in order to cover Sorcerer hero class usage. And we have ourselves the double purple banner, which of course is for Karkaroth itself. And the rest of the team is just standard Rowan quick kill with a 50% mana star off of Mirage Queen to get everything going. And by everything, I mean Rowan. We have Leprechaun here to empower into getting mana, and then you simply click Rowan and win on a low-level Explorer. and you can also do that for any other kill objective we end up needing, which I believe we have like Construct or something, I can't remember. Or it might have been Mystic, actually. But wherever you need to go do it, you can just end up bringing it there and just kill them out very quickly. Next we have ourselves, this one I actually showed in a video earlier. We ended up doing a key opening and everything for Scoprio. This was, I would say, the strongest of them. It's basically a pretty standard Scorpius or Yali team, but it incorporates Scoprio, and this will be one of the ones that we're going to be showing in a moment. Next we have ourselves Vash'Dagon Iron Gut, a team that generally isn't worth using, because the main area where you would use Iron Gut is Delves, and Vash'Dagon is not good in Delves. You can kind of get away with this in like Guild Wars slightly, though of course due to the color overlap, you can only do this on brown or blue Guild War Day, and then you have to build other options. But if you're just doing this for fun and like Explore 12, which is what we're going to be using this for, it is actually an interesting combination, the Hiking Iron Gut Vash'Dagon combo, mostly because of how you gain a bunch of stats onto Hiking Iron Gut, and then how Vash'Dagon ends up utilizing that to do a bunch of true damage, while also still having chipped true damage off of Mare. Anyways, aside from that, let's go into the Guild War teams real quick as far as our offensive teams. When we do these streams every single night, we will probably be using slightly different teams than these if we're going to be testing around with stuff, but we tend to switch these up quite often just to kind of mess around. Right now, we currently have Zugoth Archdiva as our red team. I really like using Zugoth on Red Day, quite a few different ways that you can end up doing it with Empower and other stuff like that. However, this particular one is centered around resummoning and a lot of mana accumulation, where basically we throw Archdiva onto Zugoth, hope he survives long enough to actually have that happen, because sometimes, you know, they can go crazy. And then you Zugoth the entire team down, and that's pretty much the whole premise. You have Impervious, so you don't have to worry about freeze, stun, stuff like that, unless they have Curse Stun, in which case that's going to be slightly problematic. However, not too many teams end up carrying it. As far as Brown Guild War Day, we have ourselves a Ogress tank, kind of mana accumulating a bunch, where we're using Doomed Club as our primary damage source, once again using Angry Mob as our main mana accumulator as well, and Mistralis here just kind of for a little bit of board shuffling, a little bit of auto extra turn damage in order to use all the excess mana that we're going to be getting, and of course just a little bit of enchant to make sure if we do fall behind, it'll still be able to passively get mana over time. Next we have Guild War Purple. This Guild War Purple team is basically just Life and Death Weaver, built a little bit weirdly since you can't build standard Life and Death Weaver teams, as they use things that do not correspond to the purple color. However, this one just uses pretty standard Thrall Leprechaun as a mana accumulating base, and just using the very strong Life and Death Weaver combo in the middle to go kill out the enemy. They both have Stealthy, so they have to target Thrall and Leprechaun first, and you'll basically just ultimately win off of Life and Death Weaver spamming until you get like a billion Web Spinner summons that will help speed up with the triple damage hits that they have. Once again, we're doing a Arachne Weaver build here, using Gargoltha as just a nice solid 75% tank. Not used too much in the current state of the game, but if you want to make sure you just mitigate skulls, helps out a lot. To also help with mitigating skulls, we also have Rope Dart to make sure we pretty much almost take no skull damage whatsoever. And then Mistralis here once again for the enchant and a little bit of board control. This one does lack a little bit in the starting mana department, but once it gets going, it's good to go. Next, we have Guild War Green. For Guild War Green, we're using Beatrix as our cleanse option, using an Essence of Evil to disable whatever the biggest threat is on the opposing team. We have Elementalists, which I'm pretty sure we had actually on almost all of these. Actually, literally all of them. Gosh, I didn't even notice that. Elementalist is literally on all 6 of these. I did not notice that till just now. But yeah, Elementalist is a little strong, possibly. Obviously, Elementalist, Stun, Freeze, Burn, Entangle, 100% chance every single time it extra turns, on top of having Freeze at the start of battle, having Immune to Freeze, having Destroy, having a billion other immunities, having Barrier on Brown. Has a lot of things going for it, that's for sure. But yeah, we're just using that with Beatrix, so we have Cleanse, Arachne Weaver for standard Arachne Weaver things, it has Stealthy, has Impervious, it has one of the best summons in the entire game, has Web, has a bunch of true damage, has a bunch of mana accumulation. This is pretty much everything it needs to do as long as it secures kills. A little bit harder to secure kills in this team, but one thing to keep in mind is you can use Essence of Evil in order to get them into kill range for Arachne Weaver, because Essence of Evil does all negative side effects. One negative side effect is Fairy Fire, and then Fairy Fire will do 50% extra damage when you do the Arachne Weaver poke, and then you can get into kill range that way. And lastly here, we have Guild War Blue, which is a Rope Dart. Actually, this one's a little bit of a weird one. You might wonder, like, why on earth is Astral Spirit there? But there's a lot of double empower teams, and one really funny thing that Astral Spirit actually does is you can deny your own color if you need to deny your own color. So, of course, generally, on something like a blue day, a defend team will have 2 empower blues. They'll convert something to blue and something else to blue. So one thing that you can actually end up doing is deny your own blue, and then after they do their converts, you go take the 5 times blues that are all across the board, because they're likely going to miss. Well, the first one guarantees going to miss because there's no blue on the board, or almost guaranteed. They can still cascade, of course, but it's almost guaranteed that they'll miss the first one, and as long as you make sure the second one doesn't get alignment, they pretty much just give you full mana on everything, and you kind of just go crazy from there. So, yeah, it's kind of just like a Rope Dart kind of base team. Astral Spirit is there. It's a really weird option. It's a little bit slower, Not going to give you as many points, but it's really safe against double Empower, or at least safer than not running an Empower option. So it has that going for it. Anyways, let's go and mess with a couple of these teams. Let's go to any Explorer and go show a few of these. Probably 2, maybe 3. I do like doing 3 whenever we end up showing these. So first, let me not do the Scorpius one first, since we just covered a whole video on it, though I do still kind of want to reiterate it, as it is still available for the next few days if you haven't already picked it up. Unfortunately, it is a pretty bad mythic. However, it's still usable. So, speaking about bad mythics, Vash'Dagon, not generally considered that good of one. His main gimmick is that he curses a random enemy when matching for brown gems while also having Impervious. This is situationally pretty good. However, he also has other... Oh gosh, I forgot to set attack medals here. Hopefully we Devour first try. Okay, good. That fixed that issue. So normally you'll want to set like 2 or 3 seasons when you're using an Iron Gut outside of factions, because you want to make sure you have enough damage. So right here, we of course have our enemy team. So we already got 2 Devourers with High King Iron Gut. So, and right now we do not have a win condition to immediately win, ignoring Vash'Dagon. So if we use Vash'Dagon here, we get to Devour an ally. Keep in mind, this does not have Dispel like Black Beast, so if they have Barrier, you can actually not end up doing this. But it ends up devouring an ally, also if they have Immune to Devour, and then summon a Daemon, if the ally is actually devoured. So you can't just use this on something and get a free Daemon. It has to specifically replace the thing that you devoured. And then it ends up dealing a bunch of true damage, which that's a pretty small amount, but is boosted by life. So one thing that you can end up doing for this, of course, is go and kill out something that has a lot of life. Well, what has a lot of life? Iron Gut, who has devoured a bunch of your teammates. So you can end up doing that combination, killing out your Iron Gut, who gained a bunch of life from the enemy team, and then use your Vash'Dagon as a finisher. The big issue with this is there's a lot of locations where you can't do this as effectively. In Guild Wars, you lose a lot of score doing this. In Underworld, you can't do that every match because you're replacing the High King Iron Gut, meaning for the next match you won't have High King Iron Gut. So it's very rare that you can end up using a team like this. However, it's a pretty fun combination if you haven't messed around with it. While Vash'Dagon's not that good of a troop, it's one of the few teams where it can actually be used. Next, we have ourselves a Scoprio team. So this one we did show in the other video, though I do kind of just want to mention it here as well, as it is decently workable. It's pretty much a Scorpius or Yali team built with the new mythic that came out last Friday. So essentially what we're doing here is if anything has immune to poison, which this guy does right here because he's undying, we're going to go and target him with our true damage poke. And then essentially we're just going to go grab an extra turn, which somehow we have not hit yet, which is kind of unfortunate. Really? No extra turn? Thank you. There we go. So now we'll go take our extra turn, and then we simply go do our double kill. Oh, we actually have a triple undead here? Oh, gosh. That's one thing you do have to worry about with Scorpius, of course, is there are locations where you do have a decent number of things that could have immune to poison there. So right here, we are going to just take a little bit of green, go and get our little bit of damage. Actually, let's take a purple. Let's get our mana accumulation here. And at this point, we can just kill it out with our Yali. Is probably going to be the way we go. If she could actually get her mana there and then just kill it out. Could you not gain barrier? That'd be great. You know what? I'm actually just going to do this just to remove your barrier. And if you regain your barrier, you're going to get it removed with bleed anyways. And there we go. Overall, new mythic, pretty bad, but you know, you can kind of put it into teams. It's just worse. If you compare it to Megavore, you compare it to Scorpius, you compare it to like almost any other mythic trying to do something similar, and it just doesn't get that much value. There's no follow-up whenever it gets a kill, there's no extra mana accumulation, there's no like extra turn chance. Its final trait isn't even unique enough to use, at least with something like Storm Shield. He does a very similar, like, doesn't have enough true damage to one-shot something, but is trying to do so. But at least it can, like, barrier allies, which is something, like, somewhat usable. Whereas this is just gaining a bunch of attack for green allies, which, you know, that doesn't do too much, even if you build into a pure green team like we were messing with earlier. Anyways, I guess that is most everything. I guess we'll show one other team. That one we've already kind of shown a bunch. Let's show one of the Guild War teams. That's not quite a Guild War fight. Let's go find... Let's see what the most annoying thing is in PvP and mess with one of the Guild War teams. Actually, how about this? Let's see what's tomorrow's Guild War day. Though keep in mind this is different per console. So it's green. Let's go run our green Guild War team on the first thing we see in PvP. Oh gosh, this is a Turg and Zugoth. Anyways, let's go run green Guild War. Let's see, green Guild War. All right, there we go. So we're using... Okay, good. At least we have Cleanse. Let's hope he doesn't Essence of Evil our hero. So, I mean our Beatrix, I mean. So I'm just making sure we're running 20% into 8 magic. We could also run some cleanse metals, however we have Beatrix for that, so that's going to be our primary way of cleansing in this particular fight. It's why Beatrix is even in this team to begin with. And we just have to hope Essence of Evil doesn't hit it. So right off the bat, unfortunately not a great board, but we can make it work. He has a Leprechaun of his own. Oddly enough, it is almost worthwhile to wait, because I want to wait till there's more green on the board if we can make that happen. I don't know, maybe we just go for it now. There's a lot of skulls on this board. We don't necessarily need skulls, though, but he does, which is interesting. I'm tempted to go for Leprechaun. My biggest concern with a Leprechaun right here is it's going to set him up to be even better if I was to do so. So I'm actually going to do this. He still has not gone for Explode, which is kind of interesting. We could try for Mana off of Sky. We do have Brown Storm in play, so we can move this blue over and hope for Brown off of Sky. The only problem is we don't gain as much value from taking that, whereas we'd gain a lot more value from taking this green. So I'm going to try for it. Did not get the color that we needed there. He goes for his Explode finally, which oddly enough does not help the board state too much. We are still slightly behind on mana, and there's still a billion skulls on this board, which is really bad given what he has. Let's see. Hero's not dead. We do have Weaver. Beatrix doesn't have mana yet. Leprechaun doesn't have range. I guess we kind of just have to go for a Weaver poke and then hope for Leprechaun. We do not have anything too good. You know what? I'm going to have to kill his hero. I think we have to kill his hero. So he gets Skull Distracted, which is pretty good for us. We'll just have to go for a Weaver here. Get that Weaver down. He's going to get a lot of mana, but luckily not too much mana. We then just keep poking stuff from the board. Go for, it looks like another Weaver. Do we have kill range? We do not. That's unfortunate. You do have slightly more stats when you're doing in Guild War, though, so sometimes you can get to that easier range due to just Guild War just having slightly higher stats between your guild bonuses and all that. It's not a huge amount, but it does allow Weaver to slightly more consistently than normal get to kill range, which is nice. And right here we will go for our Weaver, and we still have Essence of Evil to go disable that if we really needed to. However, Beatrix will do enough scatter to kill that out. I don't think we got an extra turn on that final one, though it doesn't really matter, because that's enough to kill. And that's the Green Guild War team. A little bit of a shaky start, but it came through. Most Guild War teams I build these days tend to try to have a little bit more longevity, so they don't necessarily die too instantly, or at least try to. Though sometimes they're a little bit more all-in, trying to get like 9,600 score, but it's a little bit of an in-between team where it's trying to be a little bit on the safer side while still having enough damage to, you know, still score like 9,400, 9,500, maybe 9,600 if you get some luckier wins, as that's generally your target, like 9,500 plus if you're in a max guild, as in level 100 on all the little statue thingies. Though they go to 200, but you cap out the bonus at 100. But if you're at that point, you're generally aiming for a 9,500 when you're going for a 5-win Guild War. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. All 15 teams shown in this video will also be in the description there if you want to go and copy-paste any of the Guild War one, any of the other teams to mess around with them or use them for any of the events that we have going on this week. Anyways, guys, definitely feel free to leave a like on the videos. It helps out a lot and is greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys later, and have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.